Okay. So we've done business level strategy. And for today's class, we'll be doing corporate level and international level. Corporate level strategy. So I've already told you that there is corporate level strategy, business level strategy, and international level strategy. And we've already gone through business level strategy, yeah, of, mainly Porter's generic strategy, low cost, focus, and differentiation. We've looked at ANZOF. We've looked at PLC product lifecycle. We've looked at TWAS, right? SWOT analysis, strategies, and things like that, right? After doing the SWOT, there are strategies that you can implement and things like that you've learned. So this class you'll be learning about corporate level. So strategy is all about where to compete and how to compete, right? Your target, where to compete and how, with what product and services. So business level strategy was how to achieve sustainable advantage in a given sort of product service. Whereas corporate level is where to compete, which businesses should corporate compete. You could also diversify by doing M&A, strategic alliances, joint venture, and internal development. So why would you do M&A? To increase the market share so that you wouldn't have to compete with your competitors because you have more market share. Or because this another company has a very good R&D or a good contract with suppliers, then you can have access to that and there can be a synergy created and value created. So which businesses should corporate compete? So how to expand your business? There are two ways to do that. One is related diversification and the other is unrelated diversification. So if you look mostly to Korean corporate companies, they do a lot of things, like Lotte, for instance. They have construction, they have, they have hotel, they have DFS. I mean, DFS and hotel is related, but they do food, right? So and they do chemical. So as you can see, food and chemicals unrelated. That's called what? Unrelated diversification. Whereas most of like Western sort of companies, they only do diversification that are related, like hotel and DFS. That's related, right? Hospitality. But they usually don't go into unrelated. But most of Korean conglomerates, big companies, they do extensive unrelated diversification also. Which assets and competencies can be leveraged? Yeah, when you think of diversification or which companies to do M&A or things like that, you have to think of which assets and competencies can be leveraged, right? So the synergies can be created. Marketing skills, sales and distribution, manufacturing, R&D, achieving economies of scale. So for related diversification, it's usually to get the access of economies of scale. As I said this before, it's what economies of scale is producing more and more, right? So that your cost of production will go down. So the more you produce, the lower the price will become, right? That's P. And that's quantity, Q. So as you can see, the more you produce compared to here, if you compare here, the price here is there. Before here, it's this, right? That's called economies of scale. The more you produce, your production cost will go down. Yeah, you can leverage your core competencies like reputation, management skills, and things like that. in order to create a superior customer value, different business and corporation must be similar in at least one important way related to the core competency. Core competency must be something that's difficult to imitate or substitute by competitors. Related diversification, in order to leverage your core competency or share the activities because it creates more synergy. I think I've said this before with SPC, of all the different, Paris Baguette, Paris Croissant, Jamba Juice, Baskin Robbins, Dunkin' Donuts, they probably buy flour in a bulk, and because they buy flour in big quantity, their prices goes down, and there's that synergy. And they probably also have synergy of marketing cost, right? They're buying in bulks, and media will also give them a lower marketing cost. Okay, I have given Starbucks as Starbucks also distributes the tea brand Dazo. So they have that sort of distribution channel already. Because they already have that distribution channel, it creates synergy. And Tazo, it's a tea, whereas just Starbucks is coffee. So it's related diversification. Related diversification too is market power. Why do you do related diversification? To increase your negotiating or bargaining power. Your bargaining position to your supplier customer becomes bigger, right? If you diversify and if you could become bigger, obviously through related diversification, if you become bigger, your bargaining position will become bigger also. Vertical integration, yeah. What was backward integration? When you get closer to what? Raw material. Forward integration, if you get closer to the consumer, it's called vertical integration. Usually corporate companies, when they diversify, they either take backward integration or forward integration. I always give car as example. Yeah, engine or all the car parts. That's what? It's closer to raw material, right? So if Hyundai decided to buy a company that sells car parts, that's what? That's called what? Backward integration, right? If they buy this A company. Whereas if this A company decides to buy Hyundai, I don't know if they have money, right? This A company that sells, automobile parts, decides to sell Hyundai, yeah, it's a what? Forward integration because it's going closer to the consumer. Usually when corporates decide which companies to buy, it's either backward integration or forward integration if it's related diversification. What's the benefit? It secures raw materials. Forward integration, it secures your distribution channels. It protects you over valuable assets. By Hyundai buying this A company, they have access. If let's say they I don't know, they created, because they have a very excellent R&D, they created a very excellent engine. Yeah? Then by buying it, they have that protection over the supply of this, superior engine. They won't give the superior, sell it to, GM or other companies, right? You have access to new business opportunities. It's simplified procurements, negotiating, contracting costs. It's all simplified. You don't have to do that by doing backward integration. What are the risks? It increases the overhead capital expenditure. Yes, more money, more expenses, right? Because you're buying and you're increasing your business. Loss of flexibility due to large investment. Yes, because you spent money, you probably will have a cash flow problem. Administrative cost. Yeah, because you have to coordinate different stages of value chain. It's more headache, more things for you to do because usually Hyundai only had to deal with how to you know, do good assembly line or how to market to consumers, and now they have to think about R&D with their automobile parts if they have to buy, if they bought and done the backward integration. Okay. So what is example of related diversification? Oops. Marriott, yeah. 16 hotel brands in 60 countries, yeah. They only diversify with their hotels. Whereas unrelated diversification, example, we all know Mandarin Hotel, yeah, because we're hospitality students. They do related mixture of related and unrelated, but Jardis, this company is based on Hong Kong. They do related, such as Travel Group, Pizza Hut, KFC, yeah, but they also do engineering corporation. Yeah, they do shipping services, they do terminals, they do construction, they do IT services, auto parts, real estate. Real estate can be, somewhat related, but auto parts, shipping services, engineering, construction, aviation services, air cargo, terminals is very different. So it's unrelated diversification. Related, it's a mixture of related and diversification. Related and unrelated artists. So that's an example. Another example would be Universal Studio. Did you know that Universal Studio was owned by GE? Yeah. GE changed its focus and investment and started to not only do, electronics, yeah, but they are exit and they do motor division, right? But they've decided to sort of exit the markets from insurance, industrial diamonds and mortar division, and concentrate and invest in healthcare, energy, water treatment, home mortgages, and entertainment. And that's why they bought Universal Studio and are doing unrelated diversification. So why do you do unrelated diversification? For financial synergies and parenting. And you are diversifying your investment, always having, eggs in a lot of, we usually say don't put all your eggs in one basket, put your eggs in different baskets. That's the theory for investment, isn't it? Because you never know what will happen. So it's never good to sort of put all your eggs in one basket because you never know what will happen to that one basket. Whereas if you put each egg to different baskets, let's say you have 30 eggs and you put into 30 different or 15 different baskets, then there's less risk. So you should that's the main reason. Okay, and you could create value through management expertise, right? Legal, financial, that's another reason. Because you have expertise in some area, like cash flow or legal or financial, centralized planning and budgeting. Or if you're restructuring, if your parent company finds undervalued and poorly performing firms with unrealized potential. So when do you do unrelated that? When do you do M&A and things like that? When you buy other companies, when you feel that the other company is undervalued, right? You feel that the price that's in the market is probably low and their potential is unrealized. Sell off parts of business, changing the management, reducing, restructuring, right? So reducing unnecessary sources of expenses, capital restructuring. You always have to look at debt to equity when you are thinking of buying other companies. Your cash flow needs to be good, and it's always good to have a ratio of 1 to 5. So 1 debt to 1.5 equity. So you could pay the debt anytime you want. Okay, those are the reasons for unrelated diversification. Ways to achieve diversification. I said this before, M&A. Yeah. Like Hotel Accor. It's a France company. when they wanted a rapid expansion in US, they just bought a Motel 6. Yeah, because it has 1,000 hotels locations in US and Canada, for 1.9 billion in 2012. So they do M&A for rapid expansion. But when you do this, you often pay a premium price, as stock price falls after public deal. So usually, when you do M&A, you tend to buy a little bit more expensive. You pay a little bit more. So they were saying that Accor paid too much for Motel 6. Um, okay, so and because Accor is a very big company, they own Novotel and all those other companies. They can leverage their core competencies, right, and make Motel 6 better. Okay, so if you want a rapid expansion, you usually do M&A. You could also do strategic alliance. You don't have to contribute equity, but just sharing the resources, the pool of resources. And each partner should bring the desired complementary strength to the partnership. You could do joint venture. It's the same as strategic alliance, but forms a third-party entity, where each firm sort of contributes to the equity. So strategic alliance is just sharing, your resources. But no, it does not contribute equity. Whereas joint venture, if there's A company, there's B company, A and B decides to form a company C. Yeah. For strategic alliance, they just, you just share resources and competencies and things like that. Whereas joint venture, they put money in. Yeah. A and B and create a new C company. Okay, that's called joint venture. Internal development, company diversify into new product markets, technology through internal development. So if, for instance, let's say Lotte decides to go for LCC. Okay, they have option of buying. Let's say Jeju Air was in the market. They have option of buying it, but they decide not to buy it. Okay, they decide not to do M&A by buying Jeju Air. They just come up with their own Jeju Air, own Lotte Air, let's say, for LCC, Lotte Air. Okay, that's called what? Internal development. Because they themselves have come up with their own product, new product for new market. Okay, that's called internal development. So those are the ways to achieve diversification. When you have so many companies or even products, this can be even used for evaluating products, not only for companies. Yeah, which company should I keep, or which product line should I keep? That's when you use which product or which businesses should I keep. That's called BCG Matrix, Boston Consulting Group Portfolio. And we use this framework a lot to discern. So what this is that market share, yeah, and market growth. Okay, as you can see, it's divided. If the market growth is high and market share is high, then that's what? A star. Star is the best thing. Yeah, high market share, and it's growing so rapidly. You have a big market share, but it's also growing. Oh wow, that's star. That's fantastic. Yeah. Whereas let's say, if the market growth is low, yeah, it's not growing rapidly, but you have a big share. What's called? It's called cash cow. Yeah, you're well established because you have a high market share. However, the market isn't growing and your opportunities are very limited. And then dog is when you market growth is low market growth, but you also have a low market share. The growth is low, but you also have a low share. Your market presence is weak. It's going to be difficult to make a profit. So that's why it's called dog. So what should you do? You should exit. When you're dog, you should exit. You should liquidate. Liquidate means exit. Make it into cash, make it into money. That's called liquidation. You should sell the company or get rid of the product, or it can be product or businesses, right? Question mark when the growth is high, but you have a low market share. The opportunities no one knows what to do with. These opportunities need serious thought. Yeah, because the market is growing, but you have a low market share. As whether increase investment. The reason why there's a question mark, this is dot because you just have to get rid of, right? This is question mark because it is growing. Yeah, but you have a low market share. Yeah. So in order for it to increase a market share, you need money, investment. You have to do marketing, you have to do more R&D because it's growing. So that's why it's question mark. Which companies, if there are companies here in question mark, out of these, which should I select and invest so that it can become what? Star. So that's why there is that arrow. Yeah. And the remainder should be liquidated, divested. Not invested, but get out of, divested. Liquidated, right? So that's why it's question mark. So our whole aim, so usually what strategists say is that our whole aim is for all the companies or products to become what? Star, right? But because of PLC, yeah, I mean, not all markets grow all the time, right? So what strategists are saying, what scholars are saying, is that you go through a pattern of like this. Like more like this, not, it doesn't go up, sorry, like that. Yeah, you have some companies here, question mark. Yeah, it becomes a star, but because, not all markets can grow forever, it becomes their cash cow. Yeah. After becoming their cash cow, it can become their dogs, right? When your market share decreases and the growth decreases, then you just have to leave the market. So it can go through the cycle of like this. Okay. So usually you invest in market where it's growing, right? But you have relative small market share, but you invest, and it becomes a big star. After becoming a big star, your market growth can, decrease. Yeah, but you have a large share because you've invested a lot. It becomes a cash cow. It's, making a lot of money. However, it's growing less, and then later it can become a dog and you have to liquidate. See? Question mark? Yeah. And then star, cash cow. When it goes to a cash cow, it's end of cycle, right? And they become a dog. You have to liquidate. You have to exit. Then you add a new product or business. Okay, I think I've gone through all this. If you're a star, need heavy investment to finance rapid growth. Yeah, but growth will eventually slow down and they'll turn into cash cow. Cash cow, you need less investment. That's heavy, but that's less investment because you have a large market share. Yeah, they produce cash to support the stars. So when you make money from cash cows, what do you have to do? You have to invest in your star and question mark. Yeah, so if you have companies that are making money here, yeah, what do you have to do with that money that's making from the cash cows? There and here, you should invest. Okay, so your stars can become the next cash cow for you, and the question marks can eventually become your cash cow. Okay. They cash cow question marks, they require more cash for investment. Okay, so 4 strategies is invest more and build a share. Invest just enough to hold the share at the current level. Milking its short-term cash flows regardless of long-term effect. Divest means sell it or phase it out. Yeah. So as long as you understand what BCG is, that's fine. It's a framework for you to discern. Questions to ask. Your ROI. This is another business term that you must understand. Your return on investment. You spend $50 for company A and company B. $50. Next year, year 1. In year 2, they gave you investment of $20 and $5. Which is better investment? Which has higher return on investment? Obviously, company A. That's called our ROI. Is a return of investment attractive? Is there a sustainable competitive advantage that you could exploit assets and competencies but neutralize weaknesses and retain the necessary skills? Will the strategy have success in future? Is the strategy feasible? So those are things to ask when you're thinking of which companies, businesses, or products to invest and not invest. So that's it for the corporate level. Unrelated and related diversification we learned about, and BCG. That's it. So we're going to look at global strategy. So when you're like, I've given this as a first slide because Starbucks, yeah, it's in Canada, Japan, Malaysia, New Zealand, Taiwan, Kuwait, Philippines, Australia, all these countries, right? But if you look at their type of entry, it's all different. Some you've given license, other you've given joint venture, other you've given a wholly owned subsidiary, yeah? And their partners are all different. In Korea, we all know it's Shinsegae, right? And to my understanding, it's JV, joint venture. What was joint venture? They put equity, right? Company A, company B, put some sort of equity each, and then forms another C. Yeah, that's called joint venture. So they are doing joint venture. We are going to learn about wholly owned subsidiary and licensing more later. So what I'm trying to show is that even the Starbucks, when they go into different countries, their types of entry is all different. Okay. Okay. So why do you go global? Why do you go to different countries? To obtain economies of scale. Yeah. Obviously, if you sell more, if you produce more, and if you sell more, you have more purchasing power. You know, your cost reduces if you produce more, right? You spread risks. Yeah. You could spread the fixed cost. Okay. You could extend PLC. Yeah. If it's going down, if you're down like that, because your market is already saturated, you could go up. Yeah, you could continuously grow by entering into and make more money by entering into different markets, right? Because your market, your home market can be saturated. You go into new markets. So if you go into line, I mean, you know how McDonald's in Korea, they're all closing down, right? But if you go to Vietnam, tons and tons of lines, right? For just eating one hamburger set. So that's why you go into new markets. Okay, Global Brand Association. Yeah, I told you being global is very important these days, right? It increases customer preference by being global and is perceived to be higher quality. Global innovations, right? R&D talent. You might have good talents, in America, okay, in Europe, in England. So you get that access. Okay, access to national investment incentives. You know that car companies usually, when they set up their factories, they get investment incentives from the country, right? So they have tax breaks, cash bonuses. They get investments also from the country itself. So which is very enticing to the companies, and that's why they go global. Excuse me. Cross subsidization. Cash flow generated in one lucrative market to attack and compete battle in another. So, for instance, Vietnam, we talked about Vietnam, McDonald, because they're doing so well in Vietnam and not so well in Korea. So what you can do is from the cash that you earned from Vietnam, you can, compete in the battle in Korea with Lotteria and other sort of companies. Okay, and you get access to a strategically important market. Some countries important place of new trend development industry. Korea, for instance, is perceived to be very, very important country um, for these expensive brands like Louis Vuitton, Chanel, or Prada. These high-end luxury brands. They are considered to be very important, strategically important market. Not because the sales is very high in Korea, but because Korea is very trendy. So with the trendy and viral marketing of Korea, where do they attack? They attack China because China has such a much bigger market size, right? So that's why strategically Korea is different important market for all these Italian high-end brands. But at the end, they're trying to, with Korea, try to get influence to China and get the cash from there, right? Money from there, or money from China through Korea. But that's why, marketing or things like that in Korea may be very important for the Chinese market. So access to strategically important, but some country is important. It's a place of new trend and development in industry. So which country should you enter? Is a market attractive in terms of size and growth? Are there favorable market trends? Yeah, Vietnam is growing. Yeah, so it's attractive. Will the business model product provide a point of differentiation? Yeah, will the product itself be a point of differentiation, or is there a local brand that's better? How intense is the competition? Can the firm implement its business model in the country? Yeah, can it implement, right? Not all companies, the business model can be implemented. I told you this before. Usually, that's why we use localization. Yeah, not global, but localization. Like McDonald's, they come up with bulgogi burger, teriyaki burger from Japan, Korea bulgogi burger, curry burger for India. What kind of strategy are they doing? Localization and globalization at the same time. Why? Because not all business model will work in that country because of culture differences. Risks must be considered, like pesto, political in China. Currency is very expensive in England, but the pound and the union power and things like that, the law of each country should be considered. And yeah, I just talked about co-localization. It's in between standardization and customization. Standardization is if you use the same product or same methodology, same strategy for all the different countries, right? homogeneity of consumer taste. That's what they're thinking. That's why they use the standardization strategy. High degree of similarity in terms of product, brand, yeah, position, advertising, look and feel. That's what Coca-Cola does, standardization mostly, right? And Nike, I think also Adidas also, right? Standardization offers economies of scale. It's cheaper. You have one marketing advertisement and single global campaign. Yeah, obviously it's going to be cheaper. Yeah, and BI, it's easier to recall. Yeah, awareness will be recall. Yeah, standardization is preferred for travel-related products like, credit card, airlines, and hotels due to a high degree of exposure. Whereas customization, it what they usually go for pursue a customization strategy when you know that it's not going to work for all countries. And there are differences across markets. Okay? And you have to reflect the local consumer preferences and taste. Because each country has different market share, different competitors, right? Different brand image, different customer motivations, okay, different customer taste, yeah? It may not be appropriate everywhere. So what a lot of global companies do is they go for good localization, which is in between, right? Standardized product service with some changes to local preference. So Starbucks also, they use good localization. The the cakes that you see in Korea is different from the cakes that you see in Japan. Okay, so when home country's business model is successful, what you do is you first export it. I mean, there are stages to entering the market. You first export to those several leading countries with choice of strategy. So these are sort of the strategies that there are when you're trying to enter a different country. Okay, and we're going to look at one by one. So first, what is international strategy? International strategy is based on a diffusion and adaptation of a parent company's knowledge and expertise to the foreign market. You can make minor adaptations from head office, but less independent compared to multi-domestic. So this is a grid. Yeah, as you can see, the pressure to adapt to local adaptation. When there's high, yeah, pressure to lower the cost is low. Yeah, because if you make an advertisement ad for each country, obviously the cost of production will go high. Yeah, it's not going to be low. If you're making an ad for each country, your overall cost is going to be higher. So if that's the case, you probably are making different advertisements for different countries because the pressure for local adaptation is very high. Yeah, but pressure to lower the cost is low. Yeah, you don't really have to lower the cost. Then you go for a multi-domestic strategy. Yeah, multi-domestic strategy is when, maybe I've shown you that, when you don't really have to go as your parent company. Yeah, it's more decentralized. So all the decision makings and authority is very decentralized from the parent company. So and you emphasize in differentiating the products or services to adapt to local markets. Okay, you charge different prices at different markets. Yeah, it's very, localized. Yeah, customized to the local market. What's the strength about it? Ability to adapt to the local market conditions. And you can detect the potential opportunities as soon as possible. And because the decision making is decentralized, you could just make your decisions. Okay, what is the limitation? It decreases the ability to realize the scale economies. Yeah, if you have so many companies in so many countries, then you can benefit from scale economies, but you are sort of giving up on that, right? Um, Greater difficulty in transferring knowledge across. If the companies of each country become so independent, let's say McDonald's, Vietnam, Korea, they all use, let's say they use localized sort of strategy. Yeah, very localized strategy. And obviously, because they have their decision making is very centralized to their own country. So probably there's head for Vietnam, there's head for Korea. Yeah, they make their own decisions and they make their own advertisement. There's probably no flow of knowledge or transfer of information between Korea and Vietnam because it's very centralized when you're implementing this kind of strategy. Okay, so it's difficulty in transferring knowledge across countries. And you may lead to over-adaptation of conditions, so it can be diluted. Yeah, because there are synergies that can be created by being global, but that synergy can be lost if you're going for too localized sort of domestic strategy, multi-domestic. Yeah, so you've looked at one extreme, multi-domestic, we've looked at it. Then when your pressure to lower cost is high, yeah, but your pressure to adapt to local is low, then what do? You use global strategy. Adidas, Nike probably uses all global strategy because if you look at their advertisement or their strategy, they don't really have to adapt to local culture. And I think they have a very high pressure to lower their costs because by looking at their advertisement is all the same for each country. Yeah, so they are using what? Global strategy. So what is global strategy? When your decision making is very centralized. Yeah. So your strategy is very centralized, is controlled by the corporate office, the main office. Focus is more on economies of scale of lowering the cost to strive to achieve strong level. So they strive to achieve a very strong level of coordination and integration across different countries of different businesses. So they use standardized product or service with few centralized decisions. So what's the strength? There's strong integration. If you look at Adidas or Nike, elsewhere is exactly the same, right? Strong integration. Standard leads to higher economies of scale, lowers the cost. Also, it creates a uniform standards of quality. Yeah, the image is all the same. The quality is all the same throughout the world. What is the limitation? It's limited of rapidly adapting to local markets. Concentration of activities may increase the dependence on a single facility. Single locations may lead to, yep. So limitation mostly is more you are not responding to the local needs. So we've touched on that. Then what is international strategy and transnational? When the pressure is low and pressure for local adaptation is also low. Pressure to lower the cost is low and local adaptation is low. So you can make a minor adaptations from the head office. You're less independent. You're less independent because you're not adapting to the local needs. Okay, and your primary goal of strategy is worldwide exploitation of parent companies' knowledge or capabilities. So you're trying to diffuse the firm's knowledge of core competencies. You lower cost because you have less need to tailor your products to local. So if you want to diffuse and exploit the worldwide exploitation ASAP, then you would go for international strategy because you're not adapting to the local adaptation, but at the same time, there's no pressure to lower the cost. So, and then lastly is transnational. Transnational is when your pressure to local adaptation is high. Pressure to lower cost is also high. So you have to lower cost, but at the same time you have to adapt to the local needs. And that is when there are optimization of trade-offs, when you have to be efficient as possible. You're trying to get the best out of the both worlds, right? So the downstream activities in value chain, the marketing, sales, and service, that's closer to the customers. You try to decentralize and adapt to the local needs. So the downstream activities that is closer to the customers, you decentralize. So you adapt to the local culture. You localize that. But the upstream of operation and logistics, you centralize. And you go with your parent company's rules and regulations. Okay? And you're trying to get the best of the both worlds. Firms' assets and capabilities are dispersed according to the most beneficial location. Okay? So by doing that, you have ability to still attain the economies of scale. You have, at the same time, adapt to the local markets. Yeah, locate activities in optical locations. You can increase the knowledge flow of learning of different Vietnam and Korea McDonald's. There is that some sort of knowledge that's going pass by. Challenges determine what. Well, there can be limitations of where to set up and things like that if your corporate is going for a transnational strategy. Okay, that's it. I told you we looked at Starbucks. Yeah, these are sort of the modes. There are different modes. Yeah, before was about strategy. This was all about strategy with local adaptation, right? And pressure to lower cost. Now it's all about what? The entry mode. We looked at Starbucks. Some country it was licensing, some country it was joint venture, some country it was wholly subsidiary. So what is this? It's a degree of ownership and control. And this side is risk, investment and risk. So Starbucks, we looked before. You know that Starbucks is a US company, right? It's an American company. In Canada only they have wholly owned subsidiary. Wholly owned subsidiary means they own 100% of the share. So why did America, for Canada country only, decided to go for a wholly owned subsidiary? Probably because the culture is very similar. And the language is exactly the same, right? They speak English, so probably they found it no difficulty of doing business there. Licensing is when what? Licensing is when you really don't, or you don't have the stake of ownership and control, and the investment is very low. For Canada, Starbucks, they own 100% of the share, but at the same time, because they own 100%, probably they invested all the money for opening the outlets and things like that. Whereas joint venture, it's mostly 50-50 or 51, probably 51. 60-40 or 51 and 49. Yeah, probably Starbucks US has like 51. And Shinsegae has 49. Yeah, it depends, right? Or 60-40 or even 70-30. You never know. I don't know. So joint venture is that. Companies prefer it, joint venture. Why? Because of culture differences. Doing business there, they don't have the knowledge, and the level of investment of money and risk, right? So they put it both. My joint venture was what? A and B. There's A and B. America, US Starbucks, Korea Shinsegae, and then they probably created Starbucks Korea, whatever, with a new name, C. ABC. So they put in money and they come up with a different company. Another third company, ABC, the third company, right? Whereas licensing is just giving the name. Okay, we're going to be looking at one by one. Exporting is when you're just exporting the products. Yeah, we know exporting. It's least investment amount of money. Licensing is when you receive, the parent company receives a loyalty fee. I think I got this wrong. I think Starbucks Korea is more joint venture here. It's not licensing. You give a loyalty fee in exchange for the right to use a trademark. Yeah. Or, patent or trade secrets. So I think the most common example I give is Pierre Garden. I don't know where Pierre Garden is from, probably from France, yeah. But we know that Pierre Garden is not made in France, right? So, probably this Korean company gave a loyalty fee to use that trademark, right? And if you look at a lot of home shopping, like Vera Wang, or they're not made in America. Vera Wang is a U.S. designer in America, right? And it's all made in Vietnam by CJ, right? That's sold in CJ Home Shopping. So they're obviously paying this royalty fee. That's called licensing. Franchising, where else? Yes, franchising is when you give the know-how and how to do it, and trade secrets. You do the management and everything. Marriott is also doing franchising. Okay, like KFC, we know what franchising is all about. So franchising is not only can you use licensing is only using the trademark. This is only being able to use a trademark, and the company itself is very independent. They could do whatever they want as long as they get the permission to do it by using their trademark. Whereas franchising, there is more intervention from the parent company and with know-how, trade secrets, and other sort of intellectual property things. Okay, joint venture, as I said before, you form a partnership. Yeah, you put money into it. There's that third party. Strategic alliance, there are no investment, but you do sort of form sharing competencies or trade secrets and things like that. Wholly owned subsidiary is when you own 100% of the stock. So Grand Hyatt in Korea is wholly owned subsidiary. McDonald's Korea also. Okay, so a company may export to one country. You could start with export and then license to another, have a joint ownership venture in a third, and own a subsidiary in fourth. So you looked at Starbucks, they use all different sorts of strategy. International divisions, they're marketing. And then fourth, you later create international divisions. So marketing, manufacturing, things like that. Yeah, that's it. So you could look at that. I'm going to do the independent strategy next class.